we're involved with groups, involved with people, involved with music, and begin to see ourselves as a particular way, our self-perception, and our subconscious just accommodated that self-perception and made that self-perception a reality.
I tell my daughter all the time, why I'm so wise? Because I made so many mistakes. We know that. That's where our wisdom comes from. Come on, we were all kids. We all grew up. We all messed up.
And see, a lot of us are in situations today where we say, well, God, how come it was easier before? You know, it seemed easier before, but now it's hard. God, what are you trying to tell me? God's trying to tell you it's time to move. Get up out of that wilderness. That's not where you're supposed to be living.
Today we're going to talk about addictions. Addictions are a terrible thing for so many people. It disrupted and destroyed so many lives. And so we're going to talk about overcoming an addiction, okay? How do we overcome addictions? You know, there's certain organizations where, you know, you determine you're not going to be subject to the substance anymore, and so you come to a meeting and you stand up and say, I am an addict, okay? I'm on my 37th day, or whatever. And it's always a struggle for those people. And I do want to applaud those organizations because they do have some success, but what I want to share with you today, it doesn't have to be that tough, okay? It doesn't have to be a struggle every day for the rest of it. Well, I got one more day. I don't know about tomorrow, but today, and all that stuff. That's good, and that sounds good. And I applaud those people that have done that, but I'm simply suggesting that it can be a whole lot easier, okay? And you know, we've been talking about the subconscious effect that most of us are subject to, that all of us are subject to. And so I want to suggest then for this talk is that we influence our subconscious before our subconscious influences us, okay? Now that can be taken the wrong way, okay? Where it can be taken, I'm saying, influence your subconscious before it's, you know, influences you, but that's not what I'm saying. What I want to suggest is that you will be influenced by your subconscious. So before you're influenced by your subconscious, influence it, okay? And how do we influence that? By affecting the environment, okay? And the environment, there are a whole lot of facets to an environment. It's not simply the people that you hang around. And of course you need to remove yourself from folks, you know, who have that proclivity. You're trying to rid yourself of. But even more so, the environment that I want to suggest is the environment within your mind, okay? That environment. We need to begin to adjust that. We need to begin to determine that this is not who I am, okay? But then as your subconscious is pulling you and moving you, yes, it is who you are, okay? So what do? There's a religious scripture that gives us to understand, and it actually speaks this out, that as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And I think that's very powerful, you know. And it's very powerful in so many ways. And if we would just embrace that, it would solve so many of the issues that we have in our societies, the issues that we have within ourselves, and the issues that we have with other people, okay? We're in a society today of the transgender issue, the LGBTQ issue, and so many other things, okay? And as well, the addictions. So many things that have shaped human beings into who we perceive that we are, that are either a detriment to our own selves and our well-being, or a problem in the society in which we're living, okay? But if we could just grasp that particular scripture, it's a reality in all of our lives. Well, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. This is what I am, okay? And so what I want to suggest today, as it pertains to the addictions, you need to stop believing that that's who you are. You need to begin to be the person you desire yourself to be. And that takes a conscious decision that's gonna go toe to toe with who you believe that you really are, okay? But the first thing we have to do is begin to determine what it is that we want to be. Because nothing that we are in this life, we must be, okay? everything, anything that we are, it's a choice. We've chosen to be what we are. And I know that strikes a bad chord in the heart of many organizations, like transgender organizations or the LGBTQ organizations. But what I'm suggesting is this goes for heterosexuals as well. We are what we choose to believe. And what we choose to believe is what the environment has moved us to believe that we are, okay? I had a long discussion with a religious person a couple of days ago, and this person got very frustrated with me because we were talking about the transgender issue. This is about the addictions, but I'm going to take a slight little detour and come back. And I was suggesting that this individual, they are what they believe they are. They are who they believe they are. And she took issue with that. And I suggested it's the same thing for a heterosexual. A heterosexual is an individual who believes that this is what he or she is. And so it's no different. Each individual chooses to be what they are based on the environments that they've come up with. Okay? And so of course we're not talking about the physical realities of an individual's body. We're speaking as far as the individual, what they perceive themselves to be, and that's in the mind. So we all recognize there's a disconnect between the mind and the body, and I'm not supporting any particular cause. I'm just suggesting that we really need to grasp this idea, this fact that we are who we choose to be, and we can walk in that and become that. You've heard the old saying, if you're told a lie so many times, you're going to believe it. Or if you hear a lie so many times, or if you tell yourself a lie so many times, well, it's as well the truth. If you hear the truth so many times, or if you tell yourself the truth so many times, eventually you're going to believe it. And what I'm going to suggest today, the issue within our minds, even as it relates to our bodies, the truth is not an issue. The truth is what you perceive it to be. And I know folks are going to be taking this, in a way that they might find offense with. But I'm just suggesting, so we were talking, and it's very important that we discuss it from this sexual realm to tie it into the addiction, okay? So we were talking about this, a gay person, say that it is a virgin. But the individual knows that they're gay, believes that they're gay, thinks that they're gay in their heart. They think that in their heart that that's what they are. Are they gay because they've never had a physical relationship? And this individual I'm speaking to says no. But what I suggest, if you have a heterosexual that is a virgin, that has never had a physical relationship, are they actually heterosexual? And this individual said, yes. And I'm saying, that can't be. See, what you have here is the perception of both of these individuals as to what they believe they are. Now, what you look like to me might be something altogether different, but we're not talking about what you look like or what you look like to me. We're talking about your perception, okay? And for whatever reason, the gay person has bought into the perception that this is what they are. And for whatever reason, the heterosexual has bought into this perception as to this is what they are. And until they are convinced that they are not, this is what they are, okay? And what I'm suggesting then is, let's take it back to the addiction. If you believe you are addicted, you will be addicted until you don't believe you're addicted anymore. And so what I'm suggesting today is this is another one of those choices. To being gay is a choice. Being heterosexual is a choice. Being addicted is a choice. Becoming educated is a choice. Rejecting education is a choice. I mean, everything that we're faced in life is a choice, okay? And what I'm suggesting today is we just need to come to the place in our lives that we desire to make the best choice, because we're going to like something. And see, all addiction is, sometimes, if I stand up and say, I am an addict, I am Martin Jarvis and I am an addict. Well, everyone is an addict to something. Everyone is an addict to something that they like. No one is hardly attracted to something that they don't want, okay? So we have to come to a place where we begin to pick and choose the things that we want to be addicted to. the things that we want to fall in extremely like to. We need to be very, very intentional about those things and make that choice. And like for example, you have men, you have women that are attracted to a particular type of woman or man, okay? And they're always being abused and used and mistreated by that type person. Yet the next relationship is the same type person. The next relationship is the same type person. Well, there has to come a time the individual has to realize that's the problem. The type person that I'm attracted to is not good for me. It's very destructive for me. So what am I going to do? You have to focus on something else. Okay? You have to become attracted to something else. But you see, but I don't like anything else. I like a woman that looks like this, or I like a man that looks like this, that carries himself like that, carries himself like that. Well, really? Why do you like that? And do you really like that? See, consciously, we think we like that. Like this woman, I like a tough man. I was like this woman when she says she always likes a biker, or somebody with the long hair and the biker and all this stuff. But every man that she's had in her life has abused her and done her wrong, and they fit that particular mold. So I'm suggesting is, why is it that you're attracted to things that are not good for you? Who would do that? Maslow tells us that the greatest human trait, or the greatest trait of any animal, in the animal kingdom, is that basic need to survive. So then why would we choose something that is against our survival, okay? And so what I'm suggesting is that this is what we needed, some kind of meter, okay? We need some kind of, like a Geiger counter that sort of gives us to understand, starts going off, more important than something that's harmful to us. And then ask yourself, why is it that I'm attracted to something that is not good for me? Whether it's a human being, whether it's eating too much, whether it's a destructive lifestyle, whether it's being an addict. Why is it I like that? Why do I want to do that? And what I want to suggest, there was some kind of subconscious prodding that's convinced you that we called in the last program, the subconscious is like a filter to the world. So everything that you experience in the world goes through this filter, and as it's fed out of the filter into your mind, that determines the conscious realities that we have, our truths, what we think about a thing. It's given to us, and then we respond to it. But if we have a dirty filter, if our subconscious is filled with all kinds of issues and negativities from the dysfunctions and the bad things that we've lived through in our lives, the misunderstandings, we have to recognize that the things we like may not really be the things that are best for us, and we have to clean that filter, okay? And so, like you're driving your car, and you go to get an oil change. It's only supposed to cost $19.99, and of course, you want me to check this, and you want me to check your wipers, you want me to check your filter, and then they pull out your filter, and they show it to you, and it's filthy, and so you're not getting the proper oxygen mix in there, and your car's not running optimally. That's what they tell you, right? What I'm suggesting is your subconscious is the same way. So you cannot, to me, you cannot be satisfied with destructive results of choices that we make, okay? And so I'm setting it up for the remedy here, but we truly have to understand that absolutely everything in our lives that are not working for our good are not supposed to be there. But we have allowed them into our lives because for some reason we've understood that this is the way that it's supposed to be, and that it's okay even though it's unhealthy, unhappy, and destructive and dysfunctional, okay? And so I'm suggesting is that we just have to make wiser choices and determine that even if it's something that I don't really like or I don't seem to like, I can learn to like it. I've been on this health kick now for about 20 years or so. And one thing, I realized that I really needed were to eat prunes. Gosh, man, prunes. My mother ate prunes, drank prune juice and all that stuff. And, terrible. But there was no way around it. I'm trying to eat healthy, and in the morning I need these prunes, but they taste terrible. So what do you think I did? I started eating prunes. I had to find ways. Well, maybe if I make them cold, maybe if I freeze them, or maybe if I keep them in the refrigerator overnight, then eat them the next day. And I found a way to begin to like prunes, but I promise you, it wasn't easy. And even now, if I got a bag of prunes and I pull out one and it's warm, it's not really cold, man, it's terrible, but guess what I do? I eat it anyway because I know it's good for me. I think that's what we have to do as we begin to mature, as we become adults. We recognize that sometimes the adult thing to do, the mature thing to do, is to avoid the thing that's not good for us. And that is very difficult. Why? Because there's a child within us that simply wants what they want regardless. We have to determine that. So that's the first step we have to make in this thing, man. Sunflower seeds. I mean, everybody kind of likes sunflower seeds. You crack them open and eat it and all that. But I needed sunflower seeds, but I needed a bag of sunflower seeds that were already shelled, that didn't have salt on them, man. And it was like terrible tasting, kind of. But I love them now. Why? Because I began eating them because I knew I needed to, and eventually I began to like them. And now I love them every day. I eat prunes and sunflower seeds and a whole bunch of other stuff. These are the choices that we have to make in order to determine what's best for us. And so all these things are to make your life a little better, but the addiction is something that's actually screwing up lives. You might say, well, I can afford my habits, so it's not really screwing me up that much. Anything that you don't have control over, it's screwing your life up. And the time it takes, and especially with the drugs, especially with being an addict to drugs, it takes up so much time of your waking hours. And as finite human beings, we don't have that much time really on this planet. We don't need to be wasting time. I believe that everyone on this planet has a purpose. There is something that you are uniquely fitted and qualified and able to do. Or at least you will be in your life, given the exposures and experiences that you'll have. But if you're addicted to substance, if you're laid up, just debilitated because of something that is not good for you that you're partaking from, you're wasting your life and you're not going to meet your potential. There's another religious proverb that tells us that what goes around comes around. You reap what you sow. And so it's very important then for us to choose wisely. Okay? And so we got to that point. We're going to choose wisely. I know I don't want to be this, I want to be that. I want to do more with my life. I don't want to be tied up with this addiction and everything. So how do I stop it? Just determine that you stop. You're stopped. You are no longer an addict. And you have to believe this. And I think you can if you want to. But it's not going to magically just go away one day. It's going to take some work. You have to just decide that you don't do that anymore. Okay? And then you got to fill that space with something else. Do something else. Let me give you a personal example. And this is like step by step. Okay? How to quit an addiction. Now for me, it was. Well, I had a lot of addictions, but let's just use the cigarettes, okay? I was up to like 2.5 packs of cigarettes each day. I was in a corporate environment, and back then you could smoke cigarettes, everywhere in your office. Man, if I was getting up to go from my office out in the hallway to get a drink from the drinking fountain, I would light a cigarette just to walk to that drinking fountain. I would often light my next cigarette with the cigarette that I'm putting out. 2.5 packs a day I smoked. And like everyone that smokes, you realize you shouldn't be smoking. And that's the first step. You realize this is not what you want. So I'm just going to stop smoking. And I must have done that about 20 times. And it just never worked. And so then one day I was out in the snack area. In the snack area there was a pamphlet on how to stop smoking cigarettes. So I thought, this might be interesting. So I grabbed that pamphlet, went back to my office, sat down and began reading it. And what it said to me, and what I'm getting ready to share with you, I did, and it worked. And I stopped smoking cigarettes. Okay? And I want to share with you that this can apply to any other addiction in life. Because there is a mental aspect here that is actually moved by the subconscious, right? And the reason we cannot defeat the addiction is because by the time it gets to your brain, to your mind, to your consideration, it's already a done deal. You can't change this because it was influenced by your subconscious. This is who your subconscious has convinced you that you are. So consciously, you know you shouldn't be doing this, and you're going to try to stop. But subconsciously, you're addicted to cigarettes. You can't stop. You love them. You enjoy the process. For me, I enjoyed lighting the cigarette up. I enjoyed taking the smoke, through my nose, and I enjoyed blowing smoke rings. I mean, I enjoyed the whole thing. This is what I believed. This is what I bought into. This is what I found pleasure in. Why did I find pleasure in those things? Why do I find pleasure in just lighting on fire a piece of paper with some tobacco in it? Why do I find pleasure in taking smoke into my nose, blowing it out of my mouth and blowing these smoke rings? Why do I find pleasure in a destructive act? Because I've been convinced before it even got here to here that this is what I enjoy. Up here is telling me it's destructive. In here, this is the subconscious really here, but in here it's telling me you love it. I don't want to do it, but I love it. I don't want to do it because I know it's killing me, but I love it. And that's the battle, and this most of the time we'll lose, okay? So we're talking about addictions now, and I'm just using my cigarette addiction. So I sat down at my desk and read the book, and what it said is just what I'm telling you. Just determine that you quit. You no longer smoke cigarettes anymore. That's it. It's as simple as that. You might say, but I do. No, you don't, because you just now quit. You quit. So determine that you do not smoke cigarettes anymore. So what's going to happen? It's not, you're going to feel pretty good about yourself. But it's not going to be long before you're getting this craving to smoke another cigarette. So hold off on that. Because the craving's probably not going to come for a couple of days. But what you have to do is you have to find something else that you like and that will take the place of these cigarettes, or at least be a block for these cigarettes, which won't allow the cigarettes to be so simple. So this book I read said pick a sport, something that you used to do, before you smoked cigarettes. Some people, I'm sure, would try tennis or maybe basketball or, so many other things, but mine was the martial arts. So I decided to join a martial art club. It had been years, but, I'm just following the instructions in this book. So I found something to do that I was doing before I smoked cigarettes, a martial art. Now, you're going to get tempted. You're going to get tempted to smoke a cigarette again, to smoke another cigarette. I mean, that's the way that it works, because your subconscious, he's still there. In your mind, you decided, I quit, I'm going to join a karate club, I'm going to all this stuff, but your subconscious is still there. Yeah, but you love cigarettes. You love lighting them up. You love taking the smoke through your nose. You love blowing those smoke rings out. You love the feeling you get after a meal or after other things, smoking that cigarette. No, you love it. You love it. So you got this battle going on. But you quit. I quit. I don't smoke. And that's going to last you for a couple of days probably. I quit. But it's going to get to a point where that craving is going to be so terrible that you're going to really, really want to get it in. And you know that you've been here before because you done quit 20 other times. This is where you lost it. So this is the difference. What I'm suggesting to you is you quit smoking cigarettes. But if you get that craving that's where you can't stand it anymore, go ahead and get a cigarette. And just smoke half of it. And then put it out. And throw it away. Don't save it for the next time you get, no, throw it away. Smoke half a cigarette and throw it away. So what you've done is, you have just eliminated the craving. The craving is what kills us. So you quit smoking cigarettes, but you had this craving, so you took 3 or 4 hits off this cigarette, satisfied the craving. That's no longer there because you smoked a cigarette, but you only smoked half and you threw it away. And so what happens is you've satisfied your craving, and you know how expensive cigarettes are, and you just threw away a half of a cigarette, man, so now you're wasting money. Even though it's not that much money, in your mind you are throwing money away. So you don't smoke cigarettes anymore, you quit. You had a tremendous craving, you smoked 3 or 4 hits off that cigarette, satisfied the craving, threw the cigarette away. I went on about your business. So you have all these psychological factors. These are the environmental, you're manipulating the environment that your subconscious is responding to. Your subconscious can no longer say that I'm hooked on these, that I need this, this cigarette, because your subconscious doesn't have a mind. Your subconscious is just responding, okay? So now your subconscious is realizing you just took 3 hits off of a joint and you just threw it away. Okay, you must not be addicted. You might be wanting another one, but you're not addicted. And you know you're not addicted, and your subconscious also recognizes that you just threw away some money, okay? That's why it's very important not to save that half a cigarette. You have to throw it away. It's part of the process. And then you're going to go along, and maybe a week or two later, you're going to get cravings again. It's like subconscious trying to kick up again, remembering cigarette. You know you need that feeling. You're going to take 2 or 3 hits off that cigarette, throw it away. Same process. You're going about your business because you quit. You don't smoke cigarettes. You just satisfied a craving. Only half of it, threw it away. Went on about your business. Maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks later, you're going to get that craving again. Do it again. For me, it was one day I just recognized, hey, I don't smoke anymore. And that was it, because I did. Because I quit. But I had to make sure and shape my environment to reflect that I don't smoke cigarettes anymore. See, a lot of times we have situations in our lives, like even the drug addictions, or maybe the addiction to living a particular type lifestyle that's not right, and I decided I'm going to quit, but I'm still going around hanging with those people that are still doing that thing. That's not changing your environment. Your body's going to eat that right up, and you're really, really going to want to satisfy that feeling, that addiction that you have to, whether it's a drug or a lifestyle or whatever, or the type man or the type woman. And eventually you're going to give in. So because your subconscious is responding to the environment, okay? So you can't keep bringing yourself back into the environment that convinces your subconscious that this is who you are. Because your subconscious is going to give that to your mind, and your mind is going to eventually lose, okay? That's why I said you have to make the determination to influence your subconscious before your subconscious influences you. It's not like you're going to get there and now you've influenced your subconscious, so your subconscious can't influence you. No, you are influencing your subconscious before your subconscious influences you, because it's going to. So then feed your subconscious the environment you consciously want your subconscious to respond to, okay? And that's what it's about. Man, I was talking to this young man, and he was struggling, because of the women, they just aren't quite right, this kind of way, that kind of way. And well, where are you meeting the women? In clubs? Well, okay. That is, to find somewhere else to meet women. Because if they're not really about all this, not really about all that, well, you are in the place where this type woman is. Go to the gym. Go to the library. Take a class. Take a course. It's really that simple. Because in those places will be other women who have environmental proddings moving them to better themselves. Maybe you should be in another environment. Come on now. If you're getting tired of a particular kind of fruit, out of this garden that every time you pick one, it's a strawberry, it's a strawberry, it's a strawberry. Well, maybe you need to stop going to the strawberry patch, because I guarantee you, at the strawberry patch, the berries you're picking are going to be strawberries. So if you want cherries, you're going to have to go to a cherry tree. If you want apples, you're going to have to go to an apple orchard, okay? But you can't keep going to an apple orchard and then wondering why you keep getting apples, okay? Because that's the environment you've created for yourself, that you believe you need to be in an apple orchard. Well, this is what you're getting in an apple orchard. So even if you love the aroma of the flowers of the apple orchard, you're going to have to begin to train yourself to like something else, because otherwise all you're going to be getting are apples. And this is going to work 100% with your drug addiction. Determine that you don't do them anymore. Change your environment. Man, I used to speak to kids at juvenile detention. I did that for 17 years. I'd speak to them weekly for 17 years. And it was funny, because while they were locked up, while they were incarcerated, while they were clear-minded, clear-thinking, in that environment, they wanted, Mr. Jarvis, I'm going to change. I'm done. I'm not going to be that way anymore. That's it. And they were serious. They were for real. Some of them would be crying. Some would be emphatic and just expressing to me, you don't have to worry about seeing me in here again. And they're released. 2-3 months later, they're back in there again. Why? Because they went right back to their environment. They may have gone back to the environment getting ready to convince all their friends, we don't want to do this anymore. We talked to Mr. Jarvis and there's a better way. But no, that environment is too strong. See, consciously they wanted to change. Consciously they did change. But they didn't influence their environment before their environment influenced them. And influencing your environment means changing your environment. You can't be hanging out with those same people. You can't have been a person with an addiction or an issue with alcohol, and now I'm just going to sit in a bar, but I'm just not going to drink, okay? Because you're back in that environment. You have to totally change the environment. Man, I'm telling you this. I lived a destructive life when I was younger. I just did the things that I enjoyed doing. I partied all the time. I was in clubs every single night of the week, whether I was in the States or overseas in the military. That was my life, totally destructive in any way that you can imagine. But I was 28 years old. One cold night, I couldn't sleep. And that particular night, I normally would have got a buzz or something. But I didn't get that buzz. I had an opportunity to think. And I realized that that wasn't the lifestyle that I wanted to live. I no longer wanted to be that man anymore. And I determined at that moment that I changed. Now I'm still the same man. I was wearing the same clothes. I was in the same apartment. I had all the same stuff in my apartment. I was that same guy, but I had determined that I was going to change. So do you know what I did? I walked through my apartment and I began to pick out everything that I loved. I had things that I had picked up in Japan that I loved. I had things that I had picked up in Korea that I loved. I had trophies, baseball, bowling, karate trophies. I had a jazz album collection. I had a lot of pictures. I had all kinds of things. I had plants. I was growing my own. I had all these things in my apartment that I loved. And it was almost like they defined me. When you came to my house, you saw these things. This was Marty. I got up in the morning, man, I gathered all those things together and I took it all out to the dumpster and just threw everything away. Now I really wasn't thinking about changing my environment. That's what I'm sharing with you right now. All I realized at that moment when I had that change of mind for real, that these things that I loved, these things that I identified with, these things that sort of identified me, who I was, they weren't relevant to me anymore. These were no longer me. At that moment when I changed, that morning when I got up, it was like my environment did not match where my mind was, okay? Now I guarantee you this, that if I hadn't changed anything in that apartment, if I had just said, well, I'm a changed man now, and just continued living in that environment, it would have been a week later, I would have been right back to where I was. But I changed that environment. I was 28 years old then. This year, I'm going to be 65. I haven't changed. Why? Because even though no one told me to, I was insightful enough to recognize that those things that were in my apartment that had identified me, who validated me, who affirmed me that I thought I was, they were no longer relevant to me. Not the me up here. And so I took all that stuff to the dumpster. Threw everything away. There was an echo in my house. And that was the best, wisest move that I think I've ever made in my entire life. Because I was able then to make a decision to change the environment, to influence my subconscious before my subconscious had an opportunity to influence me. And that's what I'm sharing with you right now. The reason you're still addicted, or the reason you still think you are and you're still living the life of an addict, is because you think you're addicted. And there have been many times you tried to stop. The key is to change your environment. Determine you don't do that anymore. I don't care if it's crack, Oxycontin, fentanyl, whatever. Make a decision right now. A thug man or a bad woman, you know, or the wrong kind of foods too late at night. Whatever it is, whatever the destructive, addictive substance or situation that you've presented yourself with, determine that's just not you anymore. And then change your environment. Don't go to those places where the bikers hang out. Don't go to the places where the thugs hang out. Don't go to the places that are selling, McDonald's. And this is not a shot against McDonald's. Man, I love McDonald's hamburgers. I love quarter pounders, the french fries and all that stuff. I haven't had McDonald's in years. Why? Because it's not good for me. I mean, there are some things at McDonald's that are not bad for you, but those aren't the things I'm attracted to. So I don't go there. Donuts. I've had Krispy Kreme donuts. Oh, man. Love those. I don't even remember the last time I had a Krispy Kreme, and I see them all the time. Because, no, that's not me anymore. Now, I didn't stop everything at the same time. So when I cleaned up my apartment that day, I was still eating McDonald's. I mean, you know, I love the quarter pounder. Man, I'd go to McDonald's to buy some hamburgers and fries and take them home and eat them. So I love the quarter pounder and a large fry and a drink, okay? And I take them home to eat. But then I would buy 2 hamburgers and a small fry just for the ride home. And then I would eat my quarter pounder and large fry, okay? So I mean, I love that. But I don't do that. Because that's not who I am. But I had to change the environment to fit who I determined I was, because my environment, man, if I go to McDonald's, I might eat a quarter pounder, a couple hamburgers, and some fries. So I keep myself out of that environment because that subconscious is strong. And it doesn't take long, okay? You might go 5 years with no McDonald's, but I guarantee you walk into a McDonald's and smell, you're going to be really, really drawn to go buy something. Well, I'll just do it this one time. You know, I just wonder if it still tastes the same. Whatever. And you do that with some kind of drug, an addictive drug, and you're just sunk. That's why people can go for years. And they get in that environment. They get in the wrong environment. They try it. And then they're sunk. They're lost. Because they're back in. And the problem, I'm going to give you the problem. The problem with that is, see, when I had my cigarette issue, I tried to stop smoking cigarettes probably 20 times or so. I don't know how many times, but a lot of times. But it seemed to me that whenever I would quit and I would fail, and then I'd go back to smoking again, I would end up smoking more than I did before I had tried to quit. And each time after that, if I failed, then I would find myself smoking more than I did before I tried to quit. Because that's a pretty, you've just given up totally at that point. When you've quit and then you've given in and lost. Okay? And so what I'm suggesting is the problem, even it's a psychological issue. All this stuff we're dealing with is psychological. Okay? And another psychological burden that you carry when you go for a time and have not, and then you break down and do, in your mind, if you decide you're going to stop, then you're going to have to at least stop for that length of time that you did before you failed, before you even feel like you're making any headway. So if you had quit whatever it was for 2 or 3 years, it's hopeless to try to quit again, because in your mind you're going to have to at least go that much before you can even believe that you really did quit. And that's another tactic of your subconscious. Your subconscious is not awake or cognizant. Your subconscious is just moving you to believe that you can't quit. And now in your mind you're thinking, I want to quit again. But if I can't quit longer past the time where I gave up last time, have I really quit? And that's just too much of a burden to bear. So you don't want to go there. You've got to determine that you are not an addict. That's not me anymore. And you have to remove all of the environmental reminders, all of the environmental things that bring you back to that place in your mind when you were an addict. Stay away from it. And I want to say, you know, like the cigarettes, if you get a terrible, terrible craving, you know, just go ahead and do it. But you shouldn't. But if you happen to break down, don't do all of it. Because I'm going to tell you this, okay? Hear me now. Because you might think, well, if I was an addict and I quit for a year or two and then I broke down because I just wanted to try some, oh well, just don't finish it. Because at that point, you're still not an addict. So you still have the power to throw the rest of that away. You're not going to want to, and it might cost you a lot of money, but is it worth it? So at that point, you haven't failed. Taking a couple hits off of whatever that was, you haven't failed, because you are no longer an addict. You quit, you're taking a couple hits. Throw it away, don't finish it, leave that environment and don't come back. So you validated it within yourself that you're not an addict. You're pissed off at yourself because you broke down for a minute. You're pissed off at yourself because you threw away that money by throwing the rest of it away. And you're going to be well. You're going to still remain well. You are okay. And that's the way, I'm telling you, man, I'm clean from anything. I was talking to a buddy that just recently, one of my best friends that I grew up with, and we were all those scenes together and everything. And the only alcohol I drink is communion at church, and that's like a glass about this big once a month. I'm not that guy anymore. I'm not in that environment anymore. And it's not an addiction or worry about, well, what if I take that one drink again in church on communion? It's not, because that's the environment of church. That's the environment of all the things that the communion symbolizes. So that's the environment. You're not going to revert back to alcoholism for drinking a small cup of wine at communion because you're not in the other environment. You're in the club. No, your environment has changed. See, I don't know if I'm going on and on, but I hope you got something out of this. Because you're not an addict if you don't want to be. You say, I'm not an addict. Whatever you want to be, you can be. Whatever you want to be. I'm living proof of that. I've done it all of my life, man. You know, I went overseas when I was a young man, when I was 19 years old in the military, to the Far East. And, I was a guy, I had dates in high school, but, I wasn't really like the ladies' man and all that, but I always had a girlfriend from, and all. But when I went overseas, I was all me by myself. But I was on the plane with this girl. We were both the same rank. We were both young. I think I was 19. She was about 23 or something like that. And we began talking. She was a real pretty girl. She had been like Miss Runner-Up in the Miss Black America Beauty Contest, so she was pretty, and we were talking, and I'm talking the whole way. That's a lot of hours, a flight to Japan and all. And so when we got to that island, when we got to Japan, we were like boyfriend and girlfriend for about 2 weeks. Because I was 19, she had been married, she was in her 20s, she was way further along than I was. And so it was, we parted as friends, and we remained friends, but, we just weren't boyfriend and girlfriend material. I just wasn't where she was at, I think she was a woman, I was still a teenager in a sense, But that 2 weeks that she was my girlfriend, where we go, she was with me, it created this reputation for me on that base. It was a small base. That this is who I was. And so I just fed into that. They don't know me? Yeah, that's who I am. So yeah, we split up, but still, this is still me. And I was attractive to all these women, and all the guys thought I was so cool, all because of the perception that they had of me that day. So what did I do? I shaped an environment around that persona, and that is who I became. And what I want to share with you, it wasn't a lie. Because you have the opportunity to be whoever you want to be. So whoever you were wasn't a lie. It was who you chose to be. For whatever reason, for whatever environmental influences. But at any time, you could change and be the person you wish to be. I shaped my whole environment about that persona for the rest of the time I was in the Far East, came back to the States, the rest of my life, even today. That's who I am today. I'm cool. I've been cool. Because I chose to be cool. And I am going to be 65 this year, 2023, so you might be looking at me saying, no, man, you ain't that cool, But that's because I'm older now. For my age, I'm cool. But the point I'm making is you can be whatever it is you want to be. So if you've been off into something that was destructive and dysfunctional and kind of messed up, you don't have to remain there. You can change that. You can change that situation. Look, man, and I shared this in the last program, and I'll share it again, but not for long, but I was in the corporate environment for 13 years after I got out of the military. A three-piece suit, briefcase, trench coat, that whole thing, I hated it. Opportunity came up. They cut a bunch of jobs and offered us to other jobs within the company, or we could take a buyout. Man, I took the buyout and left. 5 months later, I was a mailman. I went from corporate America to working for the post office. Best thing that ever happened to me, man. lost 30 pounds, my twitch went away, made more money. I'm in great health now for a 65-year-old man because of the nature of the job. Now that I'm older, I don't walk anymore. Besides that, I got an education. I earned an MBA because I was able to. My mindset was different. I work out every day, all because I changed the environment that I was in. I accepted the change. I didn't even know what the change was going to be. All I knew was that wasn't going to be me. So that was the environment I rid myself of. The environment that I built my life around was a very constructive, positive environment where I met my wife, who I've been married to for 25 years. I just sent my daughter off to college. That's a rough one. Just telling you, change your environment. Man, my whole life. If I hadn't, that cold January morning when I was 28 years old, had determined that that was no longer going to be me, I would be nowhere. I would probably be dead, I honestly believe that. Change your environment. Influence your subconscious before your subconscious influences you. So you've chosen the environment your subconscious is going to respond to in creating the attitudes that you're going to be living with. And you'll be happy. For real. And guess what? This is what I close with. I'm just making this up right now. Guess what? That, and this is not made up. My daughter was 4 years old. We purchased a very nice house in a very nice neighborhood, and we've had her in a very good private school. That even all these things were beyond our means somewhat, beyond our reasonable means. But what our intent was, my wife and I, was to create an environment that would, a large environment, a successful environment, a well environment, that my daughter would grow up, we've been here since she was 4, that she would grow up believing this is simply the way life is. This is the environment. So as parents, we have the opportunity to usher in any kind of environment we choose for our children to believe this is just normal. As my daughter, this is just normal. And that this is who she is. So recognizing, so it's very important that we get these right environments in our lives before we bring children into the world. Otherwise, if we have a dysfunctional, addict-filled environment that's full of negativities, and then we bring our child into that environment, you've just given your child a whole bunch of mess that they're going to have to try to grow up with and have a very difficult time coming out of. But you can get yourself out of every negative environmental situation that you've appropriated, change your life, then have children. Man, my children don't know who Marty is. They know Martin. They have no clue of Marty. I mean, I shared with them some stories, but they can't fathom the guy I once was, because they don't know that world. Because the environment that I changed when I was 28 years old, I had my son when I was 30. He never knew Marty. I had my daughter when I was 47. She never knew Marty. She didn't have to. My son is a college graduate, 6 figures, making way more money than me. My daughter I just dropped off at college 2 weeks ago. Man, I went in the Air Force when I was 17. And I think it was a good thing. As a matter of fact, this year, this month, September of 2023, is my 47th anniversary since I joined the military when I was 17 years old. And so, it was good for me. I think I don't regret anything in my life, but my life was full of dysfunction. The environments that I subjected myself to. And so I made sure and created environments for my children that were totally unlike the environment that I came up in and that I subjected myself to even as a young man. And my children are experiencing the benefits of it. So you have more than just you. Change that environment. Don't be an addict when your child comes into the world. And if you happen to be and your child's already here, then you demonstrate before that child how you are no longer an addict, And that will be a powerful lesson to them that they will take the rest of their life as well. So however way it goes, you are not an addict. Determine that you are not. And then just walk it out.